Hey, all you experts out there, this is the Monetize Your Expertise podcast, where we show you how to use your skills to pay the bills. Have you ever wanted to create a business that positions you as the industry leader and go-to expert? Join me every week to hear from amazing leaders and entrepreneurs who have successfully refined their skills in order to become experts and create extremely profitable knowledge businesses. To find all of the links and tools mentioned in this episode, just go to myepodcast.com. I'm your host, Grant Weherley, the online course guy, helping you every week to monetize your expertise. Hey, podcast listeners. Today, I want to start off by asking you a question. How much time do you spend building and managing the systems of your business as opposed to being your own employee? Do you actually spend time on the strategy of your business, the overall direction and mission and vision? Or do you get stuck doing only the fulfillment of the small details of your business? So over the past 6 months, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I've radically redefined my own business and how it's structured because I realized that I was getting stuck having built myself sort of a job and getting stuck in too many details rather than actually being a business owner with a business that I could manage and grow. And so I want to share with you what I've learned through that experience because it's really easy to do. I see a lot of people falling into this trap. And when you realize how many moving parts go into any initiative in your business, then you begin to realize how essential it is to leverage yourself. And this can essentially be done by two major things. And number one, that's a team, and two, systems. So I'm going to be breaking those two things down for you here in a second. But first, here's an example of just some of the things which go into creating a course, which is what I do frequently. And this is just one initiative of many. And here's all of the things that are required. And this isn't even a full list. So 1, content research. 2, outlining. 3, slide creation. 4, recording the actual videos. 5, editing. 6, website or landing page design. 7, paid advertising if you run it. 8, email marketing. 9, webinars, which also requires research, outlining, slides, editing, email marketing as well. 10, monitoring analytics. 11, customer support. 12, creation of support material for the course, which also includes content and design. And that's just off the top of my head. There's actually a whole lot more that goes into it, but that list is quite extensive, obviously. And if you try and do all of these things for each initiative, it becomes really, really overwhelming and you dramatically get slowed down. And I used to do most of these things myself, especially when I was first getting started. And it's a huge freaking bottleneck. It's stressful, it's slow, it's just not the best way to go about it. And then I realized that, I should probably only be doing the things that I love because then it's enjoyable, it's fulfilling to me, or the things that only I can do. And when you actually look at it, it's surprising how few things that really is. And there's actually a book that I like that I read recently, a couple months ago, on this topic called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. So I'd recommend to check that out to read and reflect more on this topic. But once you take the time to actually leverage yourself, create these systems, build this team, it actually begins to feel really amazing because then all of a sudden you've taking yourself out of the grind and you have the clarity of mind to see the big picture for your business. Now, one thing I do want to say is that this episode sort of has the assumption that you do want to create and build and grow a scalable business versus being a freelancer that provides a service at a given rate. There's nothing wrong with either. They're just two different routes to go. But this determines how much of your product or your service that you fulfill yourself. This decision of being the business owner versus being the more of the freelancer or service provider. So let's break this down how you can better leverage yourself. So first off, you have to build a team. Now, this is actually something I resisted myself for a long time just because, I don't know, psychological hangups. And once I started to focus on this, it was amazing the night and day difference here. So there's a lot of different options here. And this is one of the hangups that I had is I didn't realize how many ways there are to build a team. So there's partners in your business, and there's also employees. There's contractors that you can chunk off certain elements of a project or your business for. You can hire interns that might work cheaply or even free for your business. You can hire dedicated virtual assistants. You can hire virtual assistants agencies. And for this one, I like Fancy Hands personally, which is really good for loose ends, for random little small tasks that need to be done. And you can also even hire service providers And I'm not entirely sure that's the best, most accurate way of describing it, because it describes a relatively new business model, which is sort of a service as a service, a monthly service, which is fulfilled by an agency. For example, pay $200 and get unlimited small design work done in a month, or pay $100 and get unlimited WordPress support and tweaks to your website per month. So there's these new businesses that are coming out which provide that kind of support. And actually, that's one of the things I've been focusing on, is finding ways to chunk up certain elements of my business. And then maybe there's an agency that does all of my design work, and then another agency which does all of my email marketing, and then another agency which does all of my paid advertising. And then all of a sudden, all of these things are off my plate. They're actually being taken care of by a professional person or agency who's actually much more skilled at this than I am, and probably much more skilled than the random person off of Odesk that I could find. And I have much greater clarity of mind to think about the things that really matter for me to work on. So those are some initial ideas about how to build out your team. Again, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And so don't get hung up on not being able to find the right partners, or maybe if you have a small budget, some of these, there's a variation in cost of these different options. And so don't let any of those hold you back. Now let's get into systems. So there's really three main system types that I've been using. So the first one is software and automation. There's a lot of different options for this too, and a lot of different ways you can apply this. But one thing I've mentioned before in a previous episode is that I really like If This Then That, so IFTTT, and Zapier. Those are really nifty, easy to use software and websites that easily allow you to integrate different triggers and software and programs, recipes. Kind of hard to describe quickly and concisely, but check it out. It's really awesome because you can automate certain things which you may having to be managing yourself right now for yourself or for your employees. So I'd recommend checking that out. But anything which is software that frees you up, that automates something or makes something much easier and more efficient to do, it really pays off to invest the time in setting that up at the get-go. One example of how I'm using If This Then That to automate something, it's relatively small, but actually has saved lots of headaches for me, is that each time one of these podcast episodes is released, there's a recipe which triggers a task in Asana, which is my project management system that I use. Basically, it assigns a task to a person on my team to send out an email given a template. So basically, these podcast episodes get promoted without even me thinking about it or having any kind of schedule or interaction with it, because I was able to automate that with the program If This Then That, and also this next part, which is the number 2 system, standard operating procedures. So this means having documents which intricately detail each element of your business. So this is the process that people go through to post to your business Facebook group, or this is the process that people use to email out about certain things. For example, I've got a template that I use to send out my podcast episode announcements. And having that template allows me to connect that standard operating procedure to the person on my team who sends it out. She just customizes the template and gets notified by the program, which tells her a new one's been released. And then bam, out goes the email. Much less headache and less stuff to think about. But the main thing about standard operating procedures is that you can take each little thing that's done in your business and write a very clear set of instructions so that anybody could pull up the document and follow it and know nothing about your business or what you do or have any experience and be able to take care of it. And then you can hand it off very easily to new staff. Sometimes it depends on the type of SOP, but I try and sometimes hand these off to fancy hands, and it's just so nice to have it written down so you can very easily hand it off and take care of that without having to have lots of back and forth in email or clarify details. So that's been a huge game changer in my personal business. The third type of system is a workflow. Now, this is sort of related to SOPs, but the way I'm using this word is kind of different. This means the process with which your team communicates, the process that your team goes through and that you go through on a daily basis to actually work through the different things that you do. So for example, this means having a certain setup within a project management tool so that everything's organized and the communication is set up to run efficiently so you get things at the right time and you don't miss deadlines or your team doesn't miss deadlines. Setting up these kinds of workflows so that there's a very strategic way to work through the things that you have to do to manage the different tasks and projects that you have ongoing, because I know you've got more than one. So having the right workflow set up with the right standard operating procedure also leveraging the right software and automation, combine all three of those, and all of a sudden you're freed up to do a lot more high-level work that'll actually move the needle quite significantly versus the small little random things which pop up now and then. Okay, so now I know that was a little bit fast and I just covered a lot, but let me give you 4 very easy questions/exercises to get you started doing this today. So number 1, I want you to sit down right now and pause this as you're listening to it and grab a pen and paper or your laptop or what have you and list off everything that you're currently doing on a daily basis. And if you actually want to go to the level of extreme automation and efficiency, include things in your personal life, because I did this and it was pretty cool because it enabled me to automate certain things like I have meal delivery and I don't have to worry about laundry and all these small things which accumulate because I don't like doing them. So list off everything that you're currently doing. Now, I'm assuming you've paused and then done that and you're back. Now, number 2, I want you to get rid of half of the things on your list. Now, this can be done by either relying more on systems and teams or just by crossing it off the list in general for the sake of doing only the most important thing in your business. Because I guarantee you there are things on your current list which you should not be doing. You're spending time on it when it's not the most important thing, when it's something that is distracting you from what will really leverage your business and move things forward. So take the time now, pause this again, and go through, cross off half of your list or assign it to something else to free you up to focus on what really matters. Great, now you've done that. Now number 3, every morning, find one thing on your list of things to not do that you would normally be doing today. Using the same process of either handing it off to somebody else or just realizing it doesn't really need to be done. And then lastly, for 1 week straight, use a tool like Toggle, which is toggl.com, to measure how much time you are working on your business versus in your business on random disruptions and things that are distracting you from the bigger picture that aren't really that important. So for 1 week, use that tool or any other time tracking software to see how much time you're really spending on the things that matter. Awesome. So hopefully those different tools and frameworks and exercises I just gave you will hopefully allow you to better leverage yourself and set up some systems and improve the team and workflow of what you got currently going on in your business, because it makes a dramatic difference once you get freed up to focus on the things that really matter with a clear head, not being distracted by the small things that don't. So thanks again. And if you haven't actually done the exercises I just mentioned because you skipped through and listened to the whole thing without doing it, pause it now, go back, and make sure you do that. And I've also included the questions and exercises, those 4 steps that I just mentioned in the show notes for this episode at myepodcast.com. So you can go there to refresh and redo the exercise. And as always, thanks for listening. Hey entrepreneurs and experts, I just wanted to thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you learned at least one new big idea that helps you evolve your skills and gets you closer to monetizing your expertise and creating that successful knowledge business. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes and Stitcher, and check out myepodcast.com for all episodes as well as the tips and tricks mentioned in this episode. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.